在第9课，我们的题目是时间。我们什么时候做事情我们做多少次我们有什么样的习惯所以我们看一下我们的生词。第一 ，verb 加 number 加次，还有 time expression 加没加 verb 加了，还有 verb 加 object 加 verb 加 time expression. We've learned most of these expressions before, but it's always helpful to review. So, to talk about the amount of times you do something, we have a verb plus a number plus 次. For example, and 次 is a measure word for amount of times that you do something. So I can say something like, for example, 一个星期运动2次. So the verb here is 运动. How many times? 2次, 2 times. So in 1 week, right, we put the time word or the larger time word first. 一个星期运动多少次？运动2次。Another time expression that we have is the verb plus object plus verb plus time expression. This is very basic. The verb plus object plus verb expression is something that we learned a long time ago. Essentially, the idea is that the time expression must always follow the verb directly. It can't follow an object, so you have to repeat the verb. For example, 我每天看电视看2个小时. This 2个小时, this time expression is a complement modifying the verb that it comes right after. Every day, 每天看电视 watch TV, verb object 看2个小时. What the hell is this? You can also rearrange the sentence around. So instead of saying verb plus object plus verb plus the time expression, instead you move the time expression to the front and use it to modify the object. For example, in this sentence, 我每天看2个小时的电视. Exactly equivalent to this expression. However, in this case, you're saying, I watched 2 hours of TV using the de structure. This is something called, the overall grammatical term for this is a so-called duration of action. So when a sentence contains a time expression and also an object, there are 2 patterns that you can use to talk about that duration. First, you repeat the verb using the verb plus object plus verb structure, or you put the time expression before the object and modify the object with the time expression using de. Let's look at some examples. 他每天听录音听1个小时. Verb, object, verb, 听录音听1个小时. Here, 1个小时 modifies the verb. Or you could say, 她每天听1个小时的录音. She listens to 2 hours of tapes. These are equivalent expressions that both mean she listens to recordings for an hour every day. Let's look at another example. 她每天下午游泳游40分钟. 她每天下午游40分钟的泳. So here, 游泳 is a verb object. It's repeated verb object verb, or you use it to modify the 泳, the object at the very end. 她每天看英文报纸看2个小时, 所以英文越来越好了. Versus 他每天看2个小时的 英文报纸，所以英文越来越好了。Equivalent expressions, one using de modifying the object 英文报纸 the other one repeating the verb twice 看英文报纸看2个小时。Now, there's also something called a duration of non-action, which is the opposite of a duration of action. This is a new this is our main grammar point. 一个新的语法点。To say something is not happening for a period of time, you say a time expression plus may plus the verb. For example, 2年没运动了。Time expression 2年。Remember, 年 already is a measure word, so you know there's no 个 or anything. It's just 2年。没运动，运动 verb 了。The law is sometimes optional because remember here, law expresses after a verb. Law expresses a completed action. So 2 years I haven't exercised. That's a completed action that has happened. If it hasn't been completed, then you don't need the law. And that is why it's the usage of the law at the end depends on the context. Let's look at some examples. 2年没运动了。他3天没上网了。He hasn't gone online for 3 days. 我2年没检查身体了。I haven't had a checkup in 2 years. 我的狗病了，1天没吃东西了。My dog is sick. She hasn't eaten anything in a day. 姐姐上个月特别忙，3个星期没回家。去年寒假我去英国旅行，1个月没吃中国菜。Let's compare the duration of non-action versus a duration of action directly. 我学了2年中文了。I have been studying Chinese for 2 years. This is a duration of action. What is the duration of non-action? I haven't studied Chinese for 2 years. 我2年没学中文了。So look at the position of the time expression in relationship to the verb. One pattern has the verb before the time expression. One pattern has the time expression before the verb and before may. And as long as you remember that pattern and practice it, you can talk about duration in any format. 好，这就是我们今天的生词。感谢大家的收听。